Hi everyone, I'm Amy Saloner and I'm here to talk with you today about seasons and cycles. So a few years ago, I started reading this book, Do Less by Kate Northrup, and it was really profound because it really spoke to these ideas of the fact that, particularly for women, that we are cyclical beings. And when we actually listen to the seasons and cycles of our bodies, we can actually maximize our capacities and our abilities to be productive and to not burn out. So in the season of summer, we've just come into summer. It's a time that most people feel a lot of freedom, a lot of for some, to feel freedom and exuberance and really capitalizing on the energy and the light of this time. But we also know with fire and heat can come burnout. So what I've learned over the years, and I've put this into practice myself, and I teach this to the parents that I work with, for themselves to have a full cup, but also to begin to teach their teens that as they begin to take more responsibility for themselves, they also have to take responsibility for their energy and their capacities, right? And capacity is our ability, it's how much we can hold. And I hear it all the time. So much of feeling overwhelmed and feeling burned out. And usually my approach to that is not to say, well, you should be doing something, you should be doing less, or you should be doing more of this or that. It's really to evaluate, when you're doing things and how you're doing things. Not that you have to give anything up or start adding a bunch of things to do, but it's really about listening to the timing of when we do things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about right now just this idea of the cycles and how we can use that to maximize our energy. So we'll talk about summer first. Summer is a culmination time. It's a time when we have the longest day of the year. We have the peak of sun and energy. And you might think of it, if you think of yin and yang energies, yin being more feminine or fluid or softer, and yang being more direct and energetic and the fire and impulse to do something. Summer is a great time for that. It's a time to be out, to express yourself, to share your ideas and who you are. And we hit that peak of summer, and then we start to move slowly into fall, which is a time of equilibrium. It's a time when daylight and nighttime are starting to become equal. It's a time of, think about what time of year that is. It's a time of harvest. It's a time, if we're thinking about the land, we're thinking about gathering up our food that we've grown and getting it prepared to store for the winter. This is a time of sort of bringing things together, closing things up, evaluating where we've been. In many, many cultures, this is a time of a new year, right? You have Rosh Hashanah, you have in various cultures this sense of newness that's actually happening. It's a completion of a cycle and a moving into and taking stock of the next places. So this is a great time in the fall to be sort of learning our lessons, cultivating what we know, gathering up all the things that we've learned to kind of tuck them away for the next season. And the next season is winter. Winter is cold, winter is quiet, winter is the yin of the summertime, yang. It's the time of going quiet and inward. And unfortunately in our culture, it tends to be a time of super busyness, right? It's a time to have lots of parties and celebrate holidays. And I really encourage the families that I work with is to really just take a step back when it comes to wintertime and choose very wisely where you're going to put your energy out there, because really winter is a time for turning in. It's a time for reflection. It's a time for, we harvested seeds in the fall, but we also probably planted some too, some that will kind of sit under the soil in the wintertime and germinate and get ready for the spring, right? But those need time to sit fallow, sit quietly internally. And winter is really a time for reflection and quiet and less gregariousness and more intimate connection, right? So with our families and with ourselves. And then once the winter cold has thawed, we move into the spring. And the springtime is that time for planning. It's the time that the seeds are starting to blossom and the ideas that were sitting internally and germinating for the winter get to come out and express themselves and show themselves. And, again, like the fall, it's a time more of equilibrium. It's a time of balance, and we can use that time of balance to really begin to make plans. So I really encourage, instead of New Year's resolutions, you may have the resolve at New Year's, but make sure the plan is to execute it closer to the springtime, because that's a time of pulling in all that energy that we've stored, that we've rested, that we've cultivated, to have the juice to be able to expand and express in the springtime. And then again, this moves into, after the planning, to be able to then go into the summertime fully expressed, right? So this is sort of a general overview of the seasons and how that works. And so when you're thinking about your life and you're thinking about planning for your family and what your schedules are going to be, I really encourage taking stock in what the season is and what you plan to do. Is it time to take a vacation at certain times of the year when you could be actually doing something that you need your energy? Or is it better to take those vacations during times when there's a little more quiet? Or thinking about our children's schedules and how we plan, do we want to load them up in activities at a certain time of year like winter, or do we want to encourage them to maybe choose one thing that they do in the winter time, whereas they might do a little bit more in the spring or the fall or the summer? And especially because we're in summer right now, just remember that heat, that fiery nature of this time can, if we do too much, also burn us out. So we have to really be mindful of the ways that we balance our energies through each of these seasons, right? So making sure in the summer, when it is a time of full expression, that we are taking moments to get cool and calm and quiet. Whereas in the winter time, when it's a time of really turning inwards and we are really social beings, that we're taking moments to warm ourselves up with connection, and maybe quiet connection, and being close to things that bring us warmth and connection. So those are some ideas about the season. I think in the next video, I will share a little bit more about what that cycle might look like in a month for a female-bodied person. But right now, these ideas of seasons are important for anybody to think about in terms of planning your life, planning your days, so that you are maximizing the energy of the time and not working against the season and the cycles that we are meant to live in. I hope this was helpful. Leave any comments below, and have an amazing day.